you're only as good as your weakest member or something like that. You're only as good as the person that needs. You've got to look out for, and that changes within the band. And that's something that the band took on as a pretty amazing kind of quote, like, and that can be any of us at different times, because you can just be on the road and someone might have a personal issue happening, a health issue, could be struggling. And so if you look after that person, then the band will be at its strongest at that particular day.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy and life with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Today's guest is a chiller. He's laid back, super cool, deep and reflective. All the tools for a brilliant chat. I love how humble and passionate Dave is about music. It's really awesome to hear. He has such a great outlook on life and music. And despite being one of the best at what he does, he still wants to learn and grow, constantly evolving and trying new things. I love this chat, and I hope you will too. Dave Symes is a performer, writer, producer, arranger, and the bass player of Boy Bear. As a member of Boy Bear, Dave has enjoyed 2 ARIA #1 albums in Australia with Harlequin Dream and Limit of Love, as well as number 4 with Boy Bear and number 7 with Suck on Light. The band performs regularly across Australia, North America, and Europe. Dave has also collaborated with many great Australian artists. Some of the artists include Missy Higgins, Sarah Blasco, The Sleepy Jackson, Marcia Hines, Keith Urban, and The Whitlams. Boy Bear have just released their 6th album, Tripping Over Time. Check it out, it's great. And I also believe ticket sales across Europe, North America, and Australia are now out. So also check them out. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot. And we chat about Boy Bear and joining the band, the great Jackie Ozarski, the magical Jazz Sharehouse, collaboration and ego, never arriving, gigging at a young age, performing and when things don't go right, ambition, plus plenty more. Okay, cool. Let's get into it.
I've got so many places we could start, and you're going to have to... I apologize that I can't pronounce the name properly, but I thought maybe we'd start with one of your mentors.
Yeah, sure.
And you had a close mentorship relationship with the great Jackie Ozarski. Is that how you say it?
Ozarski, yeah, that's right. Hungarian surname, that is. Yeah, Jack. Yeah, brother Jack.
I'd love to know how he inspired you and what you learned, not only from music, but from life.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Jackie was... an amazing bass player, but he was also an amazing arranger, composer, and singer. And I had this. It was one of those, I guess, like amazing moments in life where I was studying the bass, and I was sort of on the scene as a youngster, and I became in Jackie's orbit, and also his partner at the time, an amazing singer called Tina Harrod. I became involved in their orbit of life as a sort of 18-year-old. And cool. Jack did something pretty remarkable around that time. He started playing the piccolo bass, which is where you string the bass in a whole octave higher. And he started playing like a guitar player, like all sort of chords. He just wanted to accompany himself, like as, a piano player or another guitar player might be accompanying him as a vocalist. He was like, no, I just want to... He was such a melodic player anyway on the bass. But he was started to play all these chords, which meant that he needed a bass player, which was just like this. I guess what are the chances of somebody that's one of the most respected bass players in the country who decides to take this changing sort of path in his direction? And I guess I was just around, and for whatever reason, and my lucky day came where he kind of maybe saw some kind of potential in me and somebody that he could mentor, and I guess it was like this. It was kind of like taking on an apprenticeship,
Oh, cool.
I was just kind of like, I was studying jazz at the time. I was playing upright bass. I was doing like a music degree, and I'd started playing a bit of electric bass as well, and experimenting more. And so Jack at that point was in the soul funk kind of genre.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just sort of ended up, he just sort of called me down to a gig one time. I remember he used to have this front room in his house, which was where we'd always get together to run things and rehearse. he got me around and sort of showed me some stuff, and then I was up on stage that night doing
That day.
local venues, you know. And
Wow.
I remember being like, I was excited, I was nervous. It was like I knew it was a changing moment. I didn't know where it was going to go from that first night. I thought that might have just been one thing, as well as helping him load the van at the end of the night, because he used to
Yep.
have a big Leslie he would play through. He played through a hammered organ Leslie.
Okay.
He had this, epic sound, and we'd be loading all the gear out. And that was really the start of an amazing 10-year chapter for me, where I got to study under Jack, play in his bands, travel to Europe on tour, and the other
Wow.
people played in his band. Some other amazing Australian musicians like Hamish Stewart on the drums, and James Greening, and Andrew Robson, and Stuart Hunter, Clayton Dolly, Arnie Hanna, Scott Leach. Anyway, a plethora of people, Tina Harrod, obviously. And I kind of was in this sweet spot of being super eager to learn and be a part of something that I thought what they were doing was incredible. And I knew I had so much that I could learn. And I just kind of went along on the ride, and went from hopefully what was sort of strength to strength as a player myself. And I've taken so much from that time. And it really set me on a whole new path, post sort of, I guess, school, university study.
Yep.
It really brought me out into the world of music, if that makes any sense.
No, that it's just there's so much that you said. It's so beautiful how like one encounter changes your entire life. Meeting the people, your craft, how you see the craft. That's like, did you? I know you said in the moment you knew something would change, but did you have any idea of what it would be like this?
No, I don't think so at all. I really, no, I didn't think that was the beginning of the next chapter for me either. I don't think at the time. I think I was incredibly excited, and I was living in that world of that band, of what that meant. Playing gigs around Sydney. Doing we'd sort of do 5 gigs a week around town.
Wow.
And he was a Hungarian, and he had moved, during the hard times of politics in the 70s. He had a very successful sort of, I guess, it was more of a sort of a pop rock kind of thing, a bit experimental as well. But they were really successful in Hungary, and they got brought out to Australia by a very famous producer called Charles Fisher, who brought them out in the 70s. But back in Hungary, he still had this connection and this legacy, and so we would also go back and perform, and perform really big concerts in Eastern Europe and stuff. And even that, I'd never been overseas before, so I remember my first trip abroad. I was very close with Jack's daughter. It's important to say, the beautiful Anna Rodzowski, and so we had gone to high school together, and we had a very close relationship, and we all travelled together. I remember the first time going overseas at 19 and going over with Jack and Tina and everything. And then we did many trips after that. I went and toured, and that just opened my whole world as well. I was sort of a suburban guy in Sydney, never been anywhere other than down the south coast my whole life, which is beautiful. I had an amazing upbringing, but to be on the plane and be in Budapest, in it was mind blowing.
I'm sure. At such a young age to be able to see all of that, and not even just from the music perspective, just seeing a completely different way of life at such a young age as well, that would have really transformed you as well.
It really did, and I think like it's been probably from then on. One of my ambitions was to travel and also to play music internationally. Like it still is. I wake up and I go, I hope I get to do that again this year. Like it's a very true and real feeling inside me to be able to play music around the world. Is just it blows my mind. It really does. It really
You
does.
have such a great outlook on this. That's so, after doing it for God knows how many years you've been doing this and still be excited. And you can't fake it because people, if they're watching the video, they can see your face and you're smiling, you're lighting up. That's rare. Often when we do something for so long, and I'm sure you have moments like this where you're like, oh, I got another whatever, but you've actually, like, you're grateful, you're excited. Is that just who you are, or is just music inspires you? What is the secret sauce?
Yeah, music inspires me. I think like it's one of those amazing crafts, I guess we're going to call it. But I think you actually never get there. In my opinion, like I feel like every day you kind of if I'm speaking for myself, but I'm speaking for a lot of people that I talk to in the scene. A lot of musicians that I know. It's like you're just thrilled to be working on something, trying to get better, or like, I don't know, you're just always pushing. Like music always, like even if you got close to getting there, you could always then go, okay, I'm gonna learn how to be a Latin musician, and you got another 50 years ahead of you. Like there's
Yeah.
so many forks in the road and branches on the tree that you can sort of climb on within the music world, and it all overlaps and it all just sends you on new paths. And yeah, I definitely I love it. I live for it. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I love recording. I love performing. I love collaborating. I love the musical community, musical family. That I love the life that it brings me. I guess like it is my job, but I don't think of it as a job. But it's my creative outlet. Um, it's my entertainment for myself. It's my friendship group. It's my social life. It's my life experience. It sort of gives you this whole thing.
It feels like you're one, like obviously you're multifaceted and there's so many things too, but there's this complete merge of this is who you are. It's not just, as you said, a job. This is like a part of you.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
And I want to pigeonhole you. You must have like no ego, and that's probably why the bands have lasted for so long. I want to pigeonhole that, but you mentioned performing as well. What was it like? So I think you, at the age of, correct me if I'm wrong, 16 or 17, you were performing, which is at such a young age. You then study at the Sydney, what was it, Conservatorium of Music. Then you meet Jackie. Did you have the performing, like, was that hard? Because you meet Jackie, he's obviously teaching a lot. Did the performing come naturally, or was that something that you had to develop and grow and learn?
Yeah, well, I guess once again, another sort of lucky moment. Like I ended up at the Conservatorium High School when I was 11, 12. From year seven, I actually studied high school, like at music at that high school, which was so my experience through that was classical based, but we used to have a lot of concerts and performances. And so I guess
Oh,
I started
cool.
learning how to perform, or having not necessarily learning how to perform, but having performance experience from a young age. And that was quite big shows. We were in the hall, which was called the Verbruggen Hall at the Conservatorium in Sydney, and that was very grand. And and I also got involved in the early on, like the production side. I was really interested in lights and sound and stuff, and I used to sort of do a lot of that for all the school events. And so I really kind of understood the whole thing. So a lot of performance practice, and then lots of gigs. Yeah, I was gigging from about 15, 16. We had a little jazz trio at high school, and we used to get out, and I think we had 2 regular gigs a week, at a couple of hotels,
Wow.
the lobby bars and stuff. And I mean, not that necessarily that's performing, but still, yeah, you're turning up, you're setting up your gear, you're putting on a nice shirt, and you're playing. And it doesn't matter if there's one person or a
No,
hundred.
that's awesome at that age as well. That would have just been so exciting. Just even if it's one person every single time to get up at the age of 15, also to just source a venue as well. That you must have really knew from a young age this is what you want to do.
It really kicked in for me. Like I think it happened without me knowing earlier on, and just a few things happened. My parents were super encouraging because we didn't have any music. I mean, there's a bit of music in the family, but it was probably quite a sidestep for me to go to school in the city and do this. And that
Yeah.
opportunity came really. It was like a drop out of the hat. Like it was just like, I think the primary school that I was at, the principal got a letter. Oh, there's a school that offers a music you can audition, and he goes, oh, I think there's one guy we know in the school that plays an instrument.
Oh,
David,
really?
it was real kind of like, oh yeah, okay, we'll give that a go. And it kind of happened, very kind of thing. But yeah, 15, 16, I thought about leaving school at that point. I remember I think I wanted to actually go into like lighting and sound, and I was looking into an opportunity to sort of leaving entertainment, but I thought, no, I think I'm more of that person. Then all of a sudden the penny dropped, and I was like, no, I'm a bass player. Let's go. And I've been studying double bass. I have a great teacher in Sydney called Craig Scott, and another great jazz teacher called Judy Bailey. Through school, we started the whole jazz change within the high school. We were the first people that jazz became part of our high school, ensemble stuff from about year 9 onwards, and that really changed things for me because classical was I love classical music, but I was searching for something else. And jazz kind of opened the door to soul and funk, which opened the door to indie pop, which old indie rock, which turned into indie pop, which turned into singer-songwriter, folk music, electronic, whatever. And now music for me is just one. It's all the same.
Oh, okay. That was going to be my next question, the merging. But also, isn't that crazy, that fork in the road moment where you think you might be doing like lighting and stuff? Do you ever think you could have done that, or you think music was always going to be your path no matter?
No, I think for a moment there I could have done it. I don't know whether I had whether. Yeah, look, I think I was good at the practical side of that stuff. I think I was sort of like, I at that age, I was, if I had to get to school at 6:30 in the morning and do an hour of setup of putting lights up on things and writing out a design plan. And then, like, I had that kind of skill set. I'm not sure how I would have actually gone in the real world with that stuff. But look, it was cool to get an understanding of that, anyway, even at a young age, because I think you get to see that kind of like backstage stuff, which is it's good to have an understanding and a respect for the people that we work with now as a performer. Like I feel like I'm very close to people that do lights and sound and stage work.
Well, it all works together.
You're a team. It's a collaboration for sure.
I've spoken with so many actors, and there's so many people, for example, making the actor look good. Not only is the director, it's the lighting people, it's the assistants, everyone. And so a lot of people have said on the podcast, it's important that they get to know everyone because their job is to make them look better. And it's similar in a sense with the musician as well. It could be with all the equipment, the team, and even like getting food and all that stuff. But we don't often talk about that. It's normally a hyper focus on the band or the actor or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, it really is. There's a lot of moving parts, isn't there? And a lot of people that work really hard to get the show on stage, and get it back off again and on the road to the next one the next night.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
A lot of great people.
And so when your principal found out about this audition, was this just like, wow, I have to do this? What was that moment like?
I don't remember, but obviously my mum and dad sort of would have been chatting and thought, well, let's give it a go. I think, really, I owe them. They obviously just really believed in the opportunity, and made it happen, and it happened, and it was. I don't know how. I was probably just sort of a bit sort of like, oh, do I want to go to a different school to my mates? I was probably feeling a bit like that, but I do remember not being too worried about it. After that, was those, you get that 6-week break, and a week before I was starting high school, I remember going and I think your mum takes you to get the new shoes and you get the uniform and you sort of, it all has a certain smell to it, the new Clark's leather and I had to wear like a grey sort of like, not suit pant, but it was a bit more formal, going into town, But I don't know, I kind of was like, I was ready for it.
That's also at such a young age, and for your parents to be accepting, because I don't know what your parents did, but a lot of people are like, the arts, no, you're never going to earn money. What are you doing? You can't do this, or at least get like a normal degree or whatever that means. Then you can do the music. But they just like, no, we believe in you. You can do this. We'll support you no matter what.
Yeah, totally. Because you're right. I mean, in terms of what they do, they're very hardworking, very generous people. But from not but working in my dad's a builder and very hardworking but very creative as a builder.
Oh, cool.
He definitely always has the vision for. And mum, very hard worker, lots of different jobs, very caring. She's always worked in all the caring roles, which is giving a lot to other people. But they obviously did, and what they gave me was a chance, and they believed that I could just give it a go, and they never held me back, which is, I really do thank them for that.
That's so great. And then I got so many questions. This is very exciting. When does the jazz share house come into the play?
The jazz share house. Oh yeah. Oh God, I don't even know how you know about that. What happened? Oh yeah, I finished high school, and I had like a year. My last year in high school, Craig Scott, my bass teacher, because he was teaching at the university, and they must have been down a bass player in one of the ensembles that he was running. And so for the last year of year 12, I spent the year in doing the first year uni jazz ensemble on a Tuesday afternoon. So nice. I was playing with these older musicians, and like just sort of trying to keep up with these guys like a year before I would have started uni. And that was an amazing experience. And then I met some people through that, and one of the guitar players, a guy called Matt Tanichi, who was in that class, we just really kind of hit it off. And I remember he kind of called me up on the old landline. You know, we used to have landlines back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
And he called me up and said, "Look, there's a room going in the house." They all lived in a street called Cleveland Street. People in Sydney know what I'm talking about. We had like a flat above, like a kebab shop and a doctor's surgery thing. It's like a main road, middle of town, but super hectic. And he said, "There's a room going for $45 a week. You know, why don't you take it?"
Wow. $45. That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, the room was a terrible room, like God. But hey, I did my dues. I went and mum and dad, and look, I remember, yeah, obviously they had to sort of approve me leaving home. I wasn't even 18 yet, but I left home. They said you had to get a job, you know, and so I got a job, the only job I've ever actually had, but like other than music, and I only lasted 2 nights. I think we lied about someone knew some restaurant called Johnny's Fish Cafe up in Surrey Hills, and they were looking for someone, a kitchen hand, and I lied that I knew what I was doing, and even I had to cut up 100 carrots, and then I didn't do too well. I think I got sprung in the cool room having a bite out of a peach or something, and then we got invited back. And actually, on the third night, I turned up to work, and he said, "No, you're not working here." And I walked down to a place called the Strawberry Hills Hotel, and Jackie Ozasti was playing, and I sat down the front with a beer and watched the band, and within 6 months I was playing a gig with him. So it's sort of like, that's a crazy moment anyway.
And what were you thinking in that moment when you saw him? Like, did you have any interaction with him at that stage?
Yeah, I'd already knew the band and stuff. Yeah, so it wasn't. Yeah, so I kind of knew they were playing. I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to go to work. I can go and watch them. You know, I was that's what I was doing on a Thursday night. Otherwise, I was going to watch those guys play.
That's the passion and desire was already there. And so you mentioned you left at 17. So did you leave school or did you finish the school?
No, I guess I must have started school 4 turning 5. So yeah, I'd finished the HSC and I'd gotten into university. So I'd gotten into the Con Uni to do a Bachelor of Jazz. And so, yeah, when Matt called about the house, and there was a bunch of other guys there. Max Grunhard, who's an amazing sax player, lives in London at the moment. Actually, I'm going to email. I've just remembered I've got to email him because we've got a Boy and Bear show in London in February, I think it is, or March. And I'm going to try and get him to hop up and play with us. And yeah, Max was there. Another guy called Sam Littman, an amazing player who lives in New York now. And yeah, it was one of those houses, like 5 bedrooms, you know.
Yeah, the collaboration would have been so much fun. Just like-minded people, just playing jazz, learning stuff. That just would have been the most fun ever.
Yeah, it was an awesome year. Yeah, it really was. You know, special memories.
And what made you leave?
Girlfriend, I think. I moved in with my girlfriend and did that kind of thing at a young age as well. So I stayed in the area, and we were still very much in that part of Sydney. But yeah, that's why I think.
Nice. And I've got the last thing on that where I forgot to ask what drew you. I know you alluded to it. What drew you to the bass of all the instruments? I think you tried maybe potentially younger. I think a neighbor maybe gave you a guitar, and that's how it kind of started. But what drew you and just kept you to the bass?
That's right. So yeah, guitar was my first instrument, and so I was at the Con High playing classical guitar, I guess, actually, because it was classical focused there. I'd started on pop guitar, started playing classical, and like I think most bass players, you know, like it's always because there's no one else doing it that you get the gig. You know, it's a classic thing. But at the Con High School, there was no double bass players at the school, and so every time the orchestra had to play or one of the ensembles that needed a double bass, they were actually having to hire people in or get people in to sort of fill that role.
Oh, wow.
And so they did they offered an encouragement award or something it was maybe called. And the head, the principal double bass player from the Sydney Symphony Orchestra, Case Bursma at the time, came into the hall and did this performance on the double bass and sort of like a presentation of the instrument, you know, cool. And showed the instrument, played all these things, talked about its role in the orchestra and the history of it. And they offered 3 awards or 2 awards. And I just remember being like, wow, that's like, what an instrument, you know. I was really, really, I guess, turned on by it. And I went for one of the awards, had to do a couple of interviews and whatnot, and got chosen and then started playing the bass. Yeah, it just sort of happened like that.
That's crazy. And then you mentioned, you know, a crazy 10 years with Jackie, but you also, before Boy and Bear, I think I read in your website that you're a founding member of the post-rock band Prop, punk jazz outfit Aronas, and an improvisational trio, Informal Troupe. Can you tell me a bit about, this is a bit low to a bit about them and what you learned from those experiences?
totally. So Prop was a band that happened through university, and two of the guys, Kim Moyes and Julian Hamilton, went on to become the Presets, which you've probably heard of, which is a very great electronic act. The other members of the band, Jared and Jeremy and myself, we were all at the Con University together, but Jared and Kim and I had also came through high school together. And so there were three percussionists, like classical percussionists, which was Kim, Jared, and Jeremy, and myself on bass, and Julian was a piano player and played all the synths. And we just used to sort of hang around. Back in those days, the double bass room was next to the percussion room. And so we'd just often be, after high school, hanging out in the percussion room, jamming until, 9 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And so the band was really born out of that. And yeah, it was a great band because it was really interesting. We had a vibraphone and a marimba with the two lead melodic instruments, and then there was the synths, and then bass and drums and percussion. It was all instrumental, a lot of long form songs, and we kind of so it was very experimental but very hypnotic as well. We did some amazing supports for Chicago band Tortoise, which is another instrumental band that also had some sort of vibraphones at the time. Actually, they just put out a new record. It sounds great. I haven't heard them for a while, but so we did some supports for that. We supported Sonic Youth at the Metro, which was awesome. It was really interesting sort of crossover, that post-rock kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that band we all sort of went in slightly different directions. After a few years, we made a record, and the Presets were born. I kind of moved on to do different things, as did the other guys. But alongside that, I definitely had a lot of jazz sort of side projects that were quite kind of, contemporary jazz, experimental, groove-based sort of things. A long-time collaborator, Aaron Ottenyoung and Matt Ottenyoung, both brothers, were parts of both of those other bands you mentioned. And look, Matt and I still make music all the time. A couple of nights ago, we just did a gig in Sydney. We do a monthly kind of Thursday night gig down at the Caterpillar Lounge and play. We're kind of doing a lot of Ethiopian kind of inspired sort of stuff in that band, which is pretty cool. So I still playing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Wow, it sounds like you could play. I know you're a modest guy. It sounds like you could play everything, every niche, everything within that's exciting to merge. That's like a true artist.
Yeah, I like to give it a go anyway. I don't always get there, but you got to give it a shot.
You're too modest, and I need to know more about the improvisational trio. Was that just you just play and get up and play music? How does that work? That's really interesting to me.
Yeah, actually, definitely. But also, a lot of the stuff that I do within that world starts from an original sketch idea or something that sort of gets us up and going. So rather than just sitting on stage and then improvising like that, it's more about improvising within a sound world that one of us has presented as a start point. So that could be anything from a tonal center to a rhythmic pattern to a melodic sort of thing, and then that kind of would sort of suggest where we might go. So does that make sense? Sort of so having some kind of okay, here's our almost so it becomes a piece of music, but the piece of music is very open because there's not a lot. There's what defines the start of it is maybe all that you have.
I did improvisational comedy, so I actually get the start point and how that works.
Yeah, okay.
How was performing something like that? Because it's gonna, might be clunky at times, or was just you guys are on the same
way? I think that's the thing. Like any band, playing pop music or improvising, I feel like if the band's got a sound and it's got a communication, then I guess you kind of you turn a moment that maybe gets a bit flat or gets a bit out. You can quickly turn that around. Together you can sort of just move it back to the sort of space you're all trying to sort of go towards. But sometimes those little when you fall off the tracks is kind of opens up a whole other thing, which is I guess that's the beauty of improvisation, isn't it? You can end up in parts unknown.
I love that. It's the mistakes where the beauty can come from. And I'm sure you've had many inverted commas horror stories live on stage, whether it's with Boy Bear or other people where, maybe someone plays the wrong song or gets the chord wrong and all of that. How have you been able to deal with that? Or is it always, let's just go with the flow? Any examples spring to mind?
Totally. Look, I mean, the thing is, I actually don't think I've ever been a part of something that's had a mistake that's derailed anything. I really feel like it's only ever been like, it's either become a funny moment, which, you know, like in the pop world where you can stop and then, you know, actually talk to the audience about it. And actually that just brings the audience in anyway. Like, and everyone, I think people in general like things to be real, you know, they want to know that you're
Definitely.
human.
Yeah.
But on another level, like, it's often, is it even a mistake? Or, yeah, you might miss a note or a chord, but we're talking about, it's about how you get back on for the next bar, you know. And I feel like, yeah, I've been pretty lucky to work with, or play, I shouldn't say work, I mean play with people that are listening and able to get back onto the right beat, or back onto the right part of the song, or the band can take it and someone can catch up. I haven't really been of something that's just completely shut something down.
And they're like, we're done. We can't move on.
I have technically been part of that, where you're playing and the power's just gone out. You know, we've had remember once on a Boy and Bear show, actually. What was it again? I remember we had to. What do they have in Northern Hemisphere? They have cyclones or typhoons, or you know how it's different.
Something like that. I would, yeah.
The thing, or whatever the ones that spin around. And so we had this warning, you know, and it came in, and got so close to the city that everything just shut down, you know. So we were just in the middle of a song, and the power was just gone.
No.
So I've had those and I've had that a few times in different situations where, like, technically you've had a complete, like, whoa, you know, and then there's nothing you can do. But that was a pretty amazing moment at Boy and Bear, I remember, because we were in Virginia somewhere, and then so no one was allowed to leave the building. It was actually became like, okay, you're bunkering down. Everyone got on the iPhone, the emergency thing, you know, you stay indoors, no one leave. And I think everyone whoever had battery in their phone, classically, just put their torch on, and we went down and just sat on the front of stage and did about half an hour of acoustic songs.
No, that's amazing.
And then we went and sat in the band room, and there wasn't there must have been a bit of light somewhere, but we just had to wait it out.
And then you went back on?
No, we didn't. It was too late. Yeah, I think that's why we did the half an hour kind of little acoustic thing, and then, you know. I can't quite remember, but, you know, once again, you can turn a situation, and I feel like, you know, the commentary after that was that it was actually a very special experience, and the people that reached out to us online, like, they were like, well, that was actually a night to remember because that happened, and we would never have chosen to do that. Obviously, we're not going to choose to just stop doing the gig and
go to a bunker,
play a cappella for half an hour, but yeah,
it's very intimate. Yeah, people would have loved that because it's different. It's different for you guys, different for them. You feel it as well. You know, we're all here together type thing. Oh, that's awesome. I also feel like because you've been doing it at such a young age, like that you're able to deal with these inverted commas, like the punches much quicker. Like you've been doing this for so long. Like maybe you made mistakes when you were younger, and now if you see it, you just keep on going with the flow. Or
I think you do learn from all those. You know, you get like. In Boy and Bear, we talk a lot about the muscle memory of performance, or playing the songs, and the muscle memory of recognizing, okay, you've turned up somewhere, it's a terrible sound in here tonight. Your muscle memory kicks in, but I've dealt with this before, so okay, I'm just going to have to recalibrate rather than freaking out and trying to fix it. Or you sort of recalibrate, and you go, yeah, I've got this in the toolbox of an experience. I've got playing to that many people on a thing where it's like the sun's in your eyes. Okay, yep, got that. I've done that one. You know, you do after a time. You have experiences, and I think you draw upon those, and you do get better at things about rolling with it. But having said that things still happen, and you do, you know, and you miss things, or I mean, it's human nature to, if you want to call it a mistake, or just to sort of, not maybe make something the way you would have hoped. You know, you sometimes fall a little short, but I think that's also part of what gets you going again anyway, doesn't it? Because you like
definitely,
you're striving for a certain kind of quality in what you're playing and putting out there.
What is your self-talk like when something like that happens? Or you just what you're saying, like, you know, that's just part of it, let's go? Or do you get like down on yourself, or you're not, I'm here to play music?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I feel that if you're in a mid performance or whatever, I feel like you've got to get back on quickly. So for me, it's like I find breathing, dropping my shoulders, relaxing, like really just letting all the tension go down.
Yeah.
And listening and looking around at the other people on the bandstand and focusing, like not listening to myself. I'll just make sure I'm totally focusing on someone else, and that brings me back in. You know.
Nice.
I feel like that's kind of a bit of a tool that I kind of have had for a long time, to sort of just to refocus, make sure that I'm back focused and really not distracted by, because I think we all have those moments where something happens and you can't shake that, but you've still got 45 minutes to go. So what's the point of worrying about one note on bar 17 of the first, verse that you kind of whatever, you kind of got to get on. But look, sometimes you can't help it. Your mind's funny, isn't it? And depending on how you're feeling anyway. Like sometimes you can have more of that, internal conversations internal voices going on about that stuff. But I really try. I find just dropping your shoulders and breathing and letting all the weight kind of sink into your core and just kind of it gives you a foundation, and connecting to everyone else around you, listening to someone else.
That's great. Not only listening, which I feel is like most of your job as well, which we'll get into as well, but the breathing and just the shrug, because your body, if you feel tense, you're going to be tense, but if you just let go, that's amazing advice. And you mentioned communication.
Yeah.
I've had him on the podcast. I'm not sure if you know him, but Ilan Kidron, he lives in Sydney, and he was lovely, lovely guy. And I've seen him perform a lot at weddings as well. And I've been watching him. I'll tell him this if I see him next. But there's this communication which, maybe just giving a look to, the drummer or the saxophone player. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about kind of the communication that you have with Boy and Bear? Because 10 plus years is a crazy time. And I'm sure just a look can mean so much in the moment.
Yeah, totally. Because you do become like, you live in each other's back pocket. So you really get to, know each other's, characteristics and emotions and all the whole thing. So definitely, you're in each other's world. Look, I find communication on stage, listening is the thing. Obviously, you really got to listen. But I do listen with my eyes a lot as well. Like I do find that I connect by like watching, looking into someone's eyes that's on the bandstand and playing to them, looking around and connecting like that. I mean, obviously not everyone can do that because not everyone can see, but it's something that I do also, really rely on. And I feel like it can sometimes make everyone kind of realize, hey, we're up here together, rather than just being in your own world. And I think that it's a nice thing. But that's just the way I've sort of like to play. And I think that the people that I've played with, it's just, it's how I've always kind of enjoyed doing it. I've enjoyed, really, really looking around at who else is on the bandstand and trying to connect,
Because it's also like kind of unspoken language as well. Like it's almost like telepathy as well. Does that kind of change your view on life, knowing that you can communicate with someone without actually communicating?
Never really thought about it actually, no, but I guess it's a powerful kind of thing, isn't it?
Mm.
I haven't thought about it. I haven't thought about it too much, but I feel like you're also communicating through the sound that's coming out of your instrument. So maybe if you took the instrument away and you were just standing in a group, sort of looking at each other, doing little movements, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not
There's a frequency, element.
But by actually playing and making a sound, it's just an extension of your voice, whatever instrument you're playing.
That's a good take. And then after Jackie, you mentioned great 10 years and then, a new change in life. I assume you're alluding to Boy and Bear, or is there something?
Well, I guess, if we go back a little bit, if that's of interest, like, I guess once, my musical world started to expand during those 10 years. And I kind of started making playing on some albums and working with some other bands that were more in the indie rock kind of world. In fact, I'm in Perth today, and I had a drink when I got in last night with a good mate, Malcolm Clark, who we were in a band called the Sleepy Jackson together and made an album and did some international touring, and we were having a great rave last night about those days. And so I got to, there was a moment there where that was a great band, a great time. Luke Steele, a really good friend and someone who I find really inspiring. He went on to do Empire of the Sun, which is going great for him, and I'm sure he'll do Sleepies again. It was a really great band. And then I met with the amazing Sarah Blasco and have been collaborating with Sarah now for over 20 years. And we just, I worked on her new record with her again a couple of years ago, and we've on and off over the whole time have continued to make music. She's just an inspiring, beautiful person who's an amazing performer and singer and songwriter, and that was an amazing time. And I think then I feel like I then had a chance to work with
Missy Higgins
for a bunch of years, and we spent a lot of time in America. And
wow.
Missy is also another amazing performer and singer and human being. And I've got a lot of great memories of that time with Missy. We did some amazing shows and really did some kilometers around America. I got to see lots of places I'd never been to before, play in venues and go on walks with her on our days off and just sort of talk about life. And it was a really special time, and it was a great band, Benny Edgar and Terrapai Richmond at the time. We were just like a four-piece during a lot of those shows. We did bigger shows in Australia with different people, but yeah, I remember those that era, which was a few years that we were doing that. And then and then I guess in that world, outside of that, there was a lot of still collaborated with a lot of other songwriters and different things during that time as well. But then after that, yeah, I got to meet the guys in Boy and Bear, which was an amazing start of the journey I'm still on at the moment, and still sort of, pushing forward with. We're having an amazing time. We've made 5 records together now since I joined the band. I joined the band album 2. Which was the Harlequin Dream record. I think what happened was they made their first record. They had some sort of, I guess, some things happened quite fast where the band went from playing, small gigs to slightly bigger gigs and international, and it was all happening.
It blew up.
And for personal reasons, they decided to sort of part with their current bass player. He had decided he wanted to do something different, and they wanted to keep going. And through another mutual friend who was their front of house technician and tour manager, a great legend called Greg Weaver, he had known me from playing with Sarah Blasko, and they had some festivals. I think it was the Falls Festival actually, which was a really big festival back in those days.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was like 3 or 4 or 5 shows even around the country at the time. You do Brisbane and Perth and everywhere, cool. Tassie, Melbourne, and Boy and Bear were on that, and so they needed to get someone to sort of fill in and learn the show and get up and play those shows. And it worked out that I was free and I was keen. I'd actually just gone and seen the band that year. My girlfriend and her best friend were actually really into the band, and we'd gone and seen them at the State Theatre. So I'd seen them, and I dug their sound a lot. And yeah, John, the keyboard player, reached out, and I was like, yeah, I think I can do that. Yeah, let's do it. It was a great tour. I think Flaming Lips were the headline that year. That they do the thing with the big, they get all the big balls that go out into the crowd, and he gets in one of those, and it was really
oh, okay, yeah.
We did those shows, and we kind of hit it off. I really got on with the guys. We seemed to have connected. I enjoyed the shows very much. We sort of got to know each other really quickly in a short period of time, and then the story is that Killian and Tim from the band locked me in the van after the WA show and said, "You're not leaving," or something like that, and sort of said, we're not letting you out until you sign a contract that you're joining the band. And it was just the right time. I was ready to join a band again, and I felt like it was just that kind of. It just felt like the right time, and they were making the next record, so I got to go straight into the studio, and we sort of wrote and recorded the Harlequin Dream record, and then that was 5 albums ago, and endless touring and amazing relationships. We're a band of brothers. It's my second family. I love the boys, and yeah.
That's rare often, and we've had many trios and groups I've spoken to over the years, and I'm sure their family, there's highs, lows. But to still, after this many years, as I said, smiling and, see this group as family, that's awesome. And that would be, I feel like, a very strong, secret ingredient to why you guys have been able to do this at such a high level for so long. It's not just the music, but obviously, how you guys interact with people as well.
Very much so. And I think, look, it's something that, because, we're putting out a new record, so we've been talking about this sort of stuff at the moment, and it keeps coming up, and we do feel lucky that we sort of found that early on, and I think it's a real credit to everybody. I feel like there is a lack of ego within the band. I think we are very, very collaborative. We share the workload for everything. We ride the highs and we ride the lows together. We win and lose together. We look out for each other. you know, we've gone through a lot, we've experienced a lot together, and I feel like that's created that kind of bond. But I think it's the way that we've chosen to collaborate. Um, there is a real equality within the band, and I feel like that gives us all the same responsibilities. It gives us all the same, you know, it allows all of our ambitions to be heard. Um, Maybe it's a rare thing. I guess it's hard to get five people to get onto the same page, and we have challenges sometimes, definitely where, but we let everybody come forward, and everybody speaks their mind. Everybody has an idea, and then we sort of massage it into, you know, we kind of work things out when it's been tricky. But yeah, it's a special thing, and I'm really I'm stoked to have been invited into their world, you know, early on in their career, and to be now looking back at what's been a long time for me to be there with them, and it's super cool.
And you mentioned the ego side. Actually, before that, how do decisions get made? Is it like a majority rules type thing, or it's not even that? You don't even need to get there. It's just a conversation.
Yeah, I think we've just learned through, once again, you know, it's all experience, isn't it? Like, yeah, you sort of learn how to take everyone's ideas on board and come out with something that people. And I guess sometimes you might have to go, okay, cool, I'll sit back on this now. I can hear everyone's point of view. I think it's really just allowing everyone's point of view to be heard. And the same when we're writing a song, you know, someone might go, oh no, I think the melody should go, you know, or whatever. Someone does something, it's like, well, let's try every melody in there, you know, like let's not just talk about it not working. Let's give it a go. We tend to, which takes a while sometimes. It can be a bit slow, but it just means everything gets a chance to sort of to be heard.
Well, that's great. Instead of saying no, you're providing a solution. There's nothing, when I've worked I do screenwriting, if someone goes, this doesn't work, I might be like, I know it doesn't work, but what's this? I don't like a no person. It's no, but how can we expect? You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just going, no, it just doesn't work for me. And from the ego side, to have five people in the room, everyone has egos, but it sounds like you're there for the highest good of the music. Is that just the nature of the group, or does that have to be developed over time, being like,
yeah, that's a good question. I feel like it's something that's developed because of the awareness that's been brought to us, that's a thing that's happening. So you kind of learn to understand it and learn to work on it. But I think originally it probably comes from the nature of the individuals. You know, there's ego at times, and everyone has a bravado and everyone has a strength. But I think it's like playing to everyone's strengths and understanding that we're all there to sort of support each other and collaborate.
nice.
And that equality allows the ego to be hopefully in balance. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I
I
get
think
that.
it comes from everyone's natural. I think it's just it's a built-in kind of thing. I feel
That's
like
great. Rare.
yeah, maybe we're lucky like that, you know.
I think so, because everyone, as we said, everyone has egos, but sometimes there might be a trigger, or I'm insecure about that type of music or that direction, or that's brought up something from my childhood, or I had a fight with a partner and that just, in
Yeah,
reference to that.
and I feel like we have that kind of ego. We have that kind of passion that if someone really does believe in something or someone is against something, I feel like that's yeah, definitely. It's not I think those opinions are made known, and then as a group, you work out how to balance that back into the thing, like.
Nice.
And I think that's healthy too. Otherwise, everyone's just keeping stuff inside.
Agreed. You're a family. There's going to be like shouting and screaming, but then also you come back together. That's a healthy, depending on how you go about it. But it sounds like you guys go about it very well. But that's healthy. And in terms of ego from external, so I know that you guys have, I believe you've done some like big labels and then also gone independent. I think I read, like, I skimmed a case study. It may have been before you joined, about Nashville. Of
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was a, oh yeah.
No,
Do you
no,
want
no.
to
Yeah, it was before my time, but yeah, I've heard the guys talk about it a lot. But yeah, go on
I
with your.
just find this interesting of when, there's a group and then you guys, or they're all on the same page, and then a producer goes, we're doing it this way, and then how you battle the ego. Whereas, you guys have worked together so strongly, and then someone else comes and goes, it's this way, or you're doing it this way, I'm not working with you, all these type of things. How have you been able to balance, external egos, whether it's managers, executives, labels, all of that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great case point study that whole every record that the band made, because every record's been a slightly different experience, but every record's taken on the lessons from the previous one,
Oh,
and probably
cool.
kind of like, I guess, informed the direction of the next one, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and the guys did have a little bit of a hard time making their debut record in Nashville. That was a big. They were young. They hadn't made a record before. They'd done an EP, but they hadn't made an album as a band before like that. And the producer in Nashville was pretty, I guess, big time at that point. Done a lot of big records and had a way of doing things and was quite intense. He had an intensity about him. He wasn't necessarily a nurturing person for where they were at and an encouragement. He was more of probably a bit of a bulldozer, But look, the record, I think, it's harder for those guys, but I can sort of listen to that record. We did an anniversary on that record a couple of years ago, I think it was, and so I mean, it's a different experience for me, and I'm like, man, this sounds great, like you've got some great things here, but I just feel like it was just that kind of experience for them, where it was a little bit, they weren't kind of nurtured through the process, and so it was probably quite an intense period for them, being away from home and being part of a big label at that point, and money being thrown. It was a different era of making records.
Of course.
But, hey, what they learned from that was huge. And then the next record, the one that I was about to, that I came involved on as well, things were different because of that. And then from that, the band learned for the next, and so on. And we're still learning. And the next record, we're already writing another record because we can't help ourselves.
Can't stop. Already.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I think that's the only way it can be, because you're only as good as your last gig. You're only as good as your last song. You're always about the next one, aren't you? You're like, well, what do we do to make this? Let's go. And you keep, and that's part of that ambition as a musician that keeps you going, and also keeps you, hopefully, the goal for us is to be doing this as long as we can. If we can keep making an album and then go out there and perform it, if we can be doing that for another 20 years, that's our kind of goal.
Oh, that's brilliant. But also, I would challenge you on that. You guys like that. A lot of people, they might want the big song and then they just hold on to that. And it's rare in life, as I said, not just as a musician, to keep on wanting to grow and expand. And that seems to be like the core of who you are. And I assume the band as well. Very rare. I love that. That's why I do the podcast. It's so inspiring that even though you've got success, it's just you can put in what is success for you now. I know you said playing for 20 years.
Well, that's right. I mean, success is kind of a funny word, isn't it? Because, but I feel like for us as a band, it's the fact that, wow, we made a new record. It's about to get released, and we've got some people that want to come along and see us perform it, and hopefully some people that want to buy their album. And I mean, it's a very, because to actually get to that point all the time, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of it takes a lot to get to that, but the journey to get to that is very rewarding, and it's challenging, but that's the process of that is what I think is the success.
Very well said. And just the last thing on the ego, has that been something you guys have had to navigate since the second album, or you generally could pick, inverted commas, the right people?
I think that I landed in a band where it just was it was always very naturally, everybody was very equal and very supportive and very caring and very encouraging and of each other. It just was that kind of band. And I think that I just managed, I sort of slipped in. It was sort of, it worked for me. It was sort of, it was where I had come from. It was how I kind of liked to sort of collaborate.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it felt like it was just a very natural kind of pairing, if that makes sense.
Awesome. And what about the externals, like maybe other labels or managers, or you don't need to name anyone, but have you had where you've just been like, we cannot work with these people don't get us, or what are we doing, that type of thing?
It does happen, and because you can't just get on with everybody. And but we do, hopefully, we do respect all the people that we've worked with, and we hopefully who we continue to work with. And we've never had anything bad happen in terms of, it's never been anything. It's just sometimes, a couple of times, it's just been time for a change and time to move on, and sometimes time to look out for ourselves a little more.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like we've had really good people around us the whole time. We had great relationships within our labels and things. And when all the label deals had sort of come to a bit of an end, and it was just a chance to do something different. The music industry has changed a bit. We signed with some new management who had enthusiasm to do the independent thing, and they encouraged us to do it. And so we're sort of giving it a go, and we are enjoying that at the moment. It's been nice to sort of internalize a few of those things, but it's not to say we won't work with a label again in the future. we just sort of had a 10-year period with some great with Ireland here in Australia and a few different record labels overseas, and it was just sort of time to sort of try and bring it in house a little bit. Not because of anything bad. It was just actually time for a change. That's all.
Creative.
And the opportunity presents. It's not very often you get that opportunity. Oh, it's just naturally things have sort of come to the end, and it's time to think about the next chapter. Yeah, that's kind of how that happened.
Well said. And from a creative perspective, you know, change can be really important. You learn, you grow, you can come back. Doesn't mean you're not going to go back. And you're probably not going to be able to answer this. Are you like the unofficial spokesperson for Boy and Bear? Because I see you've done a lot of the interviews and stuff. Do they just go get you to do it? What's the...
No, not at all. No, not at all. Maybe that's just a coincidence of some of the ones you've seen. No, we all get on board and do a hell of a lot, actually. Yeah. So, and sometimes we do it together. Often we do things all five of us as well, especially if it's performance based. We always try to do it all five of us. But the nature of things at the moment, because there is five of us, it gets spread around a lot. And sometimes we do a lot of duo interviews, which is really fun. You get two of us sort of talking, and depending on who you do it with, if I do it with Killian, it's got a certain style. If I do it with Tim, it's got a style. Hosco style, John, whatever. It really changes the way, because we have different memories, or someone remembers something different, and it sparks another kind of conversation. But no, we really share all of this stuff. And obviously, sometimes it's some people really want to talk about a certain aspect of the band which suits actually asking a certain member, which is also really a good thing, I think, to have that variety.
I agree. One day in the future, I'll get you guys in Melbourne and we'll do it in person. Well, you brought up Hosco, and I'll see how I phrase this. He was diagnosed with an illness, and I think for 4 years you guys weren't performing or working. And obviously you love him as a brother and you care. And you want him to be as healthy as possible. What were you thinking in terms of career then? Because that could be a bit scary potentially from a livelihood.
It was unsettling, definitely. We still worked through that time, but it was obviously not as much work as we could. But what we did do, which was, I guess, maybe the positive out of all that, was that we gave him a bit of time. We gave him a lot of support. And on the side, the four of us kept writing some music, and that we would, every now and again just send to him to sort of hear and just sort of keep him sort of in hopefully a little bit inspired. And he did. He didn't take that long before he sort of wanted a piece of it again. Oh, I wouldn't mind. So we just changed our setup, and he was living at the time up on a little bit out of town. And so we set that place up as a rehearsal base and as a little writing base. And so then we would just travel up to him and just try to sort of look out for, because he had different things that he was having to do with treatments and procedures and things. Yeah. But it was a little bit, there was a lot of anxiety for all of us. For him, on a personal level, it was a very tough time. And for us as a band, the future was unknown. But what we knew was that, Crowded House, we did a cover of Fall at Your Feet. The band did a cover of that, and Neil Finn said to the band once, you're only as good as your weakest member, or something like that. You're only as good as the person that needs. You've got to look out for, and that changes within the band, and that's something that the band took on as a pretty amazing kind of quote, and that can be any of us at different times, because you can just be on the road and someone might have a personal issue happening, a health issue, could be struggling, and so if you look after that person, then the band will be at its strongest at that particular day. And I feel like we really hopefully did that for Hosco. I hope he does. And I know he does. He felt very supported and loved by us. But we had some challenges to get through. We kept writing. We still did a few gigs, and we came out of it. And, we've made 3 records since then, which is kind of great. So.
Oh, it's awesome. And did you ever, and I don't say this from a morbid perspective, obviously you love the band, you love Dave, you want him to be as healthy as possible, but also when there's livelihood and it's a career for you as well. Were there ever any moments where you or anyone else was like, I think I need to leave, like I need to support myself, or were you able to do other things to keep you busy as well?
I think that we had internal conversations about, how do we keep going? Like how long do we have before, we would have to, I guess, you've got to think about your own livelihood, don't you, at some point?
Definitely.
So I guess we had discussions about things.
Yep.
None of us ever did actually get to that point where we left or anything like that. We kept chipping away and working, problem solving on how to get through and how to get other things happening within the under the band's umbrella. but we did have chats. Obviously, there was a couple of times we'd be like, wow, is this sort of going to be? But at the same time, we actually didn't stop. So it's kind of like we were writing, and he was back on. We still had some shows, and we just hadn't kind of got to the recording point to release to start the whole cycle. But we still were chipping away. So every time we had a good writing day, and all of us were there laughing, feeling great about a song, I guess we felt like we were back on anyway. Like we got little moments of joy. But you're right. There were times where definitely we had anxiety about that, and we would talk to each other. We would look out for each other and sort of workshop it.
Amazing, and that's also very healthy to do as well. How does it work with when you're in a band? And you mentioned you're performing tonight.
Yeah, I'm playing some bass with Angus and Julia tonight, who are supporting Crowded House actually on this this Red Hot Summer tour. I'm just actually filling in. Yeah, I know the band, and they needed someone to come and play some shows, and it's been really fun actually, just to be able to sort of play music with some other peers and friends.
You have such a cool life. I love it. How does it work with if you're in a band and then joining other people? Is it like these are your times, you have to be with us for these times, or do you
yeah, of course. Totally. Yeah, we're really. I mean, look, we're always working on stuff, but like in terms of like if there are opportunities for one of us to do a little something else, it's just it's got to fit into the calendar, because obviously our priority is to. I can't. Yeah, if we've got shows and recordings and writing and different things, then we're all there for everything. And but yeah, I feel lucky that this weekend I'm able to just come over here for a couple of days and play on a different show. It's kind of nice, actually.
Yeah, I think it would be great. And you've got, I believe, you're announcing a tour because this will be out in Jan. I think you can announce it. I don't know how that works.
So we've got a new album. It's called Tripping Over Time, which we made in our new studio, which we built ourselves a year and a half ago. We took on a lease on a warehouse in Marrickville, Sydney. We built our own little workspace, which has been a game changer for us. We've been so productive in there. We made the new record. Justin Stanley, a fellow Australian who's lived in LA for 20 odd years. We did a couple of songs in his studio in LA at the end of an American tour, 24, like September 24. We really hit it off, and so he came to Australia for a couple of weeks, and 3 weeks or so, we made the rest of the record in our own studio, which was super fun. And now here we are. We're putting it out December 12th. And we're launching it on December 14th at the Sydney Opera House in the forecourt on the outdoor stage on the steps, which is just a huge moment. And that's that's coming up next week. And we're in rehearsals all week this week and putting that together. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be great to have the new record out there and to sort of do a big celebration launch gig.
And how are you feeling that, a year and a half, blood, sweat and tears, I would assume, a lot of collaboration. How does it feel to get, another album of high quality out?
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And I think we still live for making albums. We're an albums band. And so I believe the vinyls arrived when I get home from this trip to Perth on Monday. I'll actually have one in my hand, which is super exciting as well. I love to sort of get the artwork and the wax in your hand. No, it feels great, and it inspires us to make another one. That's the thing. I think you finish a record and you're kind of about the next one as well. So now we've got our own studio. We have been already doing some new, writing some new songs, and I think finishing something inspires the next one. Because it takes a bit to get to the end, And I don't think you ever get to. I think you get to the end because you have to. I don't think you would ever, because otherwise you just keep writing and you keep changing parts. I feel like you have to make it. You have to finalize a chapter at a time. It's a moment in time. It's a capture of some stuff, and then now we're here. So let's get on with the next one.
That's crazy. And remind me the name of the album and how can people check it out?
Yeah, it's called Tripping Over Time. Boy and Bear Tripping Over Time. And comes out on December the 12th. You can pre-order it now, obviously, on our website, boyandbear.com or whatever. But there's already some singles up online, and
Awesome. And I saw in the email that you were going to announce on top of the Sydney Opera House a tour, or did I miss? Are you announcing a tour?
Yeah. So that's correct. We're going to do it like the rest of the Australian cities. We're going to come around in April, May in 26, and doing some beautiful venues. We're going to be doing the River Stage in Brisbane, which is an awesome spot. The Fremantle Arts Centre in WA, Theberton Theatre in Adelaide, and we're doing Hamer Hall in Melbourne.
Oh,
which
nice.
we've never played before.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, super looking forward to that.
Cool. I'll put that all in the episode notes so people can check out the album and the tour so no one has any excuses not to doing both. Congratulations on that. That's very exciting. Before we go, I'm going to do a really quick rapid fire segment. So I'll just ask like 3 questions.
Okay.
What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of my musical family and my personal family supporting each other. The way my family supports me, my music, and the way the band supports all of our individual families is a really special thing. And I feel like that's going to give us, a future to keep doing this for a long time because we're all in it together.
Great answer. I won't comment on them, but that was a great answer. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Always be ready to listen. Always open your ears. Listen to all the musical ideas. Listen to what people have got to say about stuff, and I think you can just go for it.
Awesome. Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with Boy and Bear. What is the one question I should have asked you?
You should have asked me. I don't know. Why don't you ask it now? What should you have asked?
Oh, actually, there is one question, but while you think of one, what is an arranger? You mentioned it before, and it's in your website.
An arranger? Oh yeah, cool. Arrangers. Well, so an arranger can be somebody that helps put a song together. From the form and the different sections to the different layers of parts. Sometimes an arranger takes a song and then they want to arrange it for an orchestral format. So you're taking someone's pop song and you're putting that into writing that for an orchestra or something like that. So an arranger is somebody that doesn't necessarily write the song, but can write the music and put that together to suit a certain ensemble or band. So whatever instruments are in the band or whatever.
Cool.
So yeah.
And any question I should have asked you, or that's a good one?
I think that's a good one. Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Thank you. And before we go, how can people follow you? I'll put your website in the episode notes as well. Anything else?
boyandbear.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook and all the things, TikTok and whatever, YouTube. But yeah, boyandbear.com. And we're on all the streaming services and our albums are online and things like that and all the shows that we're going to be doing. We're off to Europe and Canada and stuff early next year as well. So any international listeners, check it out. We're going to be doing some shows. Yeah. Check it out.
Awesome. All of that's in the episode notes. Thank you. You've got one of the coolest lives. I love your philosophy and mindset, around ego and just very inspiring. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for taking the time and having the chat, Michael. And yeah, it's been fun.
I love how Dave talks about looking out for each other in the band. Life can get busy, we can get in our heads, and we all have egos and ambitions, but Dave highlights the importance of care, collaboration, respect, and truly nurturing one another. He talks about the quote, "You're only as strong as your weakest member," which is a great, powerful takeaway for all of us, whether we're working with teams, navigating friendship groups, or showing up with our families. I love this mindset because it creates an environment where everyone belongs, grows, and wins together rather than trying to do it alone. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. "The chain is only as strong as its weakest link, for if that falls, the chain falls, and the object that it's been holding up falls to the ground." Thomas Reid.
Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy and life.